Here's an overview for the fundraising consultant and coach role for Jason Rieckewald-Schmidt. Here's a little bit about me. I was born in Southern California. I graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I've spent 12 years on staff at Santa Clara and UC Santa Cruz. I spent 7 years as a team leader at UC Santa Cruz. Here's my fundraising background. My last 3 years as a team leader, I raised approximately $100,000 a year. I increased UC Santa Cruz's alumni fund from $5,000 to $24,000 a year as a team leader. I oversaw supervision for fundraising in the Silicon Coast, which involved Stanford, UC Santa Cruz, and San Jose State. And I was a full-time fundraising specialist for the Pacific region. Now, why would you hire a fundraising specialist? I think the answer is simple. Because staff need help fundraising. In the Pacific region, 2/3 of our veteran staff have barely or never raised a full budget, meaning that they're underfunded according to national standards. Lack of funding is a major reason why people choose to leave university staff. The question is why? Why are staff have such a hard time fundraising? I think it's because they get derailed in the process. Most of fundraising is administrative, sending emails, following up with tasks. Staff also lack the professional tools in order to fundraise appropriately. And the main thing is staff never get to the ask. Here's what I mean. Let's imagine that this involves all of the processes that need to happen for someone to be a successful fundraiser. You need accurate data for all the people on your list. You need to have some kind of database to track their information as well as the last time you've called them or emailed them. You need to be able to track your incoming donations from InterVarsity to see all lapsed monthly and annual donors. You need to be sending out regular communications with your list. You need to have some kind of plan of who you're going to ask and when. As a result, all of these things need to happen before a staff ever gets to the point where they ask a donor to give, or they ask a prospect to give. And usually staff get derailed somewhere along the line and they never get to the ask. What staff need is a better system. They need to have a database that has clean and accurate data and sends them auto reminders to make phone calls or to send letters. They need new tools for email and newsletter communication so that they can see the last time they contacted a donor without going into their Outlook and looking for an email sent from last year. They need to set up sprints for their fundraising. Instead of inviting 3 people to give once a week for 10 weeks, invite 30 people to give in 1 week and gear up for that week and get ready to make phone calls and do follow-ups. Here's what that would look like. They would have one master list of all of their people on their prayer letter list, donors and prospects. They would have that be housed in a big contacts database that allows them to write notes, send emails, and log phone calls. They have a tool like Tracking Donors, an online Google spreadsheet that they can import their DTRs and within 2 to 3 minutes see how their year-to-date giving is doing. They use vertical response to send out email newsletters so that their supporters can easily see what's happening on campus and pray and partner with them. They have fundraising sprints that say when they're going to invite people to give and what they're going to do with that. And as a result, staff actually get to the ask. Because all of these systems are in place and are working, it's easy for them to make phone calls and invite people to give. Well, how can I help? I build fundraising infrastructure, and there's 2 ways that I do this for staff. One is by consulting, which is for senior staff who need to raise an additional $2,000 over the next fiscal year. The other is by coaching, which is helping out staff who might need to fundraise 20 to 30 hours a week off campus. Let me talk about coaching or about consulting a little bit. So these are all the different things that need to happen in order to help staff fundraise. One, I get accurate data. So I compile all their lists, send out an update address campaign, and give them accurate data to then build a database so we can use this to track all of their fundraising efforts. I set up all their information in Tracking Donors so that once a month they can spend 5 minutes tracking all of their fundraising activity from InterVarsity. Send out email newsletters. Staff send me their pictures and their text, and I send out professional-looking email newsletters and print letters to their supporters. I create a fundraising plan with staff off of all of their supporters and prospects in order to figure out when they're going to give and how they're going to invite them to give. And then staff do the ask. So I set up their database, I send all the communications, I implement their fundraising plan, and staff make asks. As a result, the majority of time that staff spend fundraising is spent corresponding with donors, talking to donors, meeting with donors, instead of doing all of these different administrative tasks. I use integrated tools like Big Contacts, which allows you to track information about how many tasks have been done and keeping track of people's fundraising efforts. I have tracking donors, which gives you a snapshot based on your DTR and gives you great feedback on where people are at. Vertical response, which allows you to send professional-looking emails to your supporter list so that they can pray and give easily, which is also integrated back into Big Contacts. The results from this, staff are going to spend way less time fundraising, but are going to raise more money. The average staff will raise $1,000 to $2,500 during this next year. I will also be building infrastructure so that after this next year is over, they will continue to have these tools to make them successful at fundraising. Here's what I offer for coaching. I offer weekly accountability. Emails where people fill out a survey, tell me what they've been doing, how they've been doing, what activities have been done that are CC'd to their supervisor. I set up monthly phone calls to check in with them, to problem solve and see how they're doing with their fundraising. And I set up a database and an integrated fundraising plan for them to be successful during their 20 to 30 hours of fundraising a week. What's the time frame for this? So this spring, staff can sign up, and then we'll set to get their database and fundraising plan going. And then over the summer, the fall, and then the winter, they will set up 3 different fundraising sprints to execute their fundraising plan. What will it cost them? So a little bit about me is that when I left campus staff, I lost 1/3 of my campus budget. So as a result, in order for these services to come through, staff in areas or regions pay for my services. But most staff will raise 2 to 3 times the cost of the services that I charge them. Here's the different rates. Well, what are the next steps? First thing you can do is go to FT Toolkit and download the summary sheet. Next, talk to Tom Allen or to your supervisor. Set up a phone call with me so we can talk more about the staff that you supervise and how to help them be successful fundraisers.